Thanks, Pete. Hany?
I think the short answer is whether or not it's an economic benefit. It's not very clear to me. I think based on this, the budget, this year's budget, sales tax revenue to the city constitutes 7.2% of the city revenue, but the city spends more than 65% of its budget to public safety. So obviously, every store that opens up generates some revenue to the city for out of the sales tax. But if 65% of our budget goes to public safety, and there's no correlation between how much income sales tax from one store provides versus how much is spent by city services for public safety for the police and the fire, I can't make that equation, and I can't tell you whether or not it's a net result. I think, based on my experience with the ride-along, our police force and our firefighters definitely do not have the resources that they need to manage the conditions that we have in our Pier Plaza, especially on the weekend, on a Friday or Saturday night. So I think if we continue to add in more stores that sell alcohol, that just makes the situation worse, and there's no correlation between the burden that these stores take on to the burden that the city is paying for the police force. I think from my standpoint, my understanding of the alcohol by right ordinance that was adopted by the city council, it basically, if I want to go out and open up a store on Hermosa Avenue, as long as I basically get an ABC license that limits me to beer and wine, and I close at 10 o'clock, I have the right to do that, regardless of whether or not there's 3 other bars on the same block, regardless of whether or not there's a daycare center on the next block, regardless of how many houses are there on, on the other side of the property. And I think from my standpoint, I would have rather have the city council have the authority and the ability to go through a CUP process, evaluate the applications being provided, put the conditions that they want, because that really gives us the incentives, gives us the enforcement. If you don't have a CUP that you can go in and, as Mr. Powers mentioned, shut a place down, giving a permit by right doesn't give you that authority. And if you're going to wait for our city attorney to go to court and get an injunction against a store to close it down, I have never heard it happen, and I'm not keeping my hopes up that it would be happening.
Can you summarize?
Thank you.
Thanks, Hany. Steve?